Morning light came late at the foot of Shadow Mountain. Even after the sky turned pale, the sun itself seemed reluctant to climb high enough to clear the ridge. The mountain held the light back like a gatekeeper, letting it spill into the valley only in thin, hesitant ribbons. Kathrin stood by the window in the kitchen, hands wrapped around her mug. The steam rose in small curls, warming her face. Her father moved quietly behind her, gathering his keys, wallet, and the folded piece of paper where he had written a list of things they needed. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded, though her mind was far from ready. She hadn't told him about the voice. She wouldn't, not yet. Not until she understood more. She slid into her coat and boots. The house creaked softly as they stepped out, the door closing behind them with a thud that echoed like a heartbeat. The air outside was bright with frost. A thin mist hovered just above the snow, swirling around their ankles as they walked toward the car. The trees behind the house stood watchful, their branches heavy and still. Shadow Mountain rose above everything, silent, immense, almost carved rather than formed. Kathrin shivered and climbed into the car. The road to the village. They drove slowly down the narrow, winding road. Snow lay like clean linens across the landscape, unbroken except for the tire tracks, left by the man who had lit their fireplace the day before. As they descended toward the village, the houses grew closer, clustered together in small knots. Chimneys smoking, windows fogged from warm air inside. Kathrin watched them pass, feeling the strange mix of everything new and something old tugging at her chest. Like she should recognize this place, even if she didn't. A few people walked along the road, a woman carrying firewood, a man shoveling snow from his steps, 2 kids chasing each other with hand-packed snowballs. Most glanced up as the car drove by, and many stared. Not rudely, not curiously either, almost knowingly. Kathrin looked away. Her father exhaled, the sound heavy. "We should find the cafe first," he said. "Ask Astrid where the grocery store is." Kathrin nodded and kept her eyes on the window, where the village rolled past in a mix of snow, pine, and smoke. The cafe? The cafe sat at a corner where the road widened. Slightly, a small wooden building. Painted deep green, with golden letters on the sign. "The Fur and Flame." Warm light glowed from the windows, and a hand-painted wooden board outside read, "Fresh cinnamon bread, today only." They parked by the side and stepped onto the cleared path leading inside. The air smelled of pine and baked sugar before they even opened the door. When they pushed inside, heat flooded over them. The room was cozy, low ceiling, wooden beams, mismatched chairs, and tables covered with embroidered cloths. A fireplace crackled in the corner, logs popping softly. A handful of villagers sat talking quietly over steaming mugs. The murmurs softened when Kathrin entered. She felt it immediately, the shift. Eyes lifting, conversations dipping. Her father didn't seem to notice. Kathrin did. Behind the counter stood a woman in her late 40s, hair braided and wrapped around her head like a crown. Her eyes were bright, her face warm, but something in her expression sharpened when she saw Kathrin. Something like recognition, or memory. "You must be new here," the woman said, voice soft but sure. "I'm Astrid." Her father stepped forward, offering a small smile. "I'm Daniel. This is my daughter, Kathrin." Astrid's gaze flicked to Kathrin again, longer this time. "Kathrin," she repeated, almost like a test. "A good name." Kathrin swallowed. "Thank you." Astrid gestured toward a table near the fireplace. "Sit, warm up. I'll bring you something." They sat. Kathrin removed her coat slowly, hands still cold. Her father rubbed his palms together, breathing into them. "She seems nice," he whispered. Kathrin wasn't sure if nice was the word. Astrid felt layered, like the mountain, like the house. A moment later, Astrid brought 2 mugs of something steaming and fragrant. "Cinnamon milk," she said. "We all need warmth in the mornings here." Her father thanked her. Kathrin nodded politely. Then Astrid leaned closer to Kathrin, lowering her voice so only she would hear. "You look like her." Kathrin blinked. "Who?" Astrid didn't smile this time. "Your mother." The room seemed to tilt slightly. "You knew her?" Kathrin asked. Astrid nodded, eyes deepening with something Kathrin couldn't read. "She left many years ago. I didn't expect to see any of you again." Her father looked up. "We didn't know she still had the house, or that—" "She knew," Astrid said softly. "She always knew." Kathrin felt her pulse quicken. Astrid straightened and returned to the counter as if nothing had happened. The reactions. While they drank, people came and went. Some glanced at them briefly. Others stared too long. One older man paused by their table, tapping the handle of his cane. "You're in the red house?" he asked. Her father nodded. "Yes, just moved in." The man's expression tightened. "Keep your windows locked at night." Her father laughed nervously. "Why's that?" The man didn't answer. He just limped away. Another woman stopped by, arms full of folded linens. "Your mother was a good woman," she murmured, eyes soft. "Troubled, but good." Kathrin's throat tightened. "Did you know her well?" "Well enough to know she kept the mountain's secrets as long as she could." Before Kathrin could ask more, the woman slipped out the door into the snow. Her father shifted uncomfortably. "I don't like how everyone talks in half sentences," he muttered. Kathrin didn't either. It felt like the whole village knew a story she hadn't been told yet. When she was somehow already inside, Astrid returns. When they finished their drinks, Astrid returned to clear the table. She paused beside Kathrin again. "How was your first night?" she asked. Kathrin forced her face to remain neutral. "Quiet." Astrid studied her for a moment. "Good," she said. "Keep it that way." Kathrin frowned. "What does that mean?" Astrid's fingers tightened around the mug she held. "It means don't listen to things that don't belong to the morning," she said quietly. "And if you hear a voice that knows your name, don't answer it." The words hit Kathrin like a cold wind. Her father looked confused. "Is this some kind of local superstition?" Astrid gave him a gentle smile. "Of course. Old stories. Nothing more." But her eyes stayed locked on Kathrin. Stories. Nothing more. Kathrin didn't believe that for a second. Outside, when they stepped outside, the air felt sharper. The brightness of the snow seemed harsher after the warmth of the cafe. "Friendly people," her father joked, though his tone was thin. Kathrin didn't respond. Her gaze drifted across the street where a narrow alley cut between two buildings. A figure leaned against the wall, partially hidden in shadow. Tall, coat dusted with snow, head bowed. Mikkel. Her stomach fluttered unexpectedly. He lifted his head as if he'd felt her looking. Their eyes met across the distance. He didn't smile, didn't wave, just held her gaze with something searching, something almost warning. Then he turned and walked away deeper into the alley. "Kathrin?" her father asked, already unlocking the car. "You coming?" She blinked and tore her gaze away. "Yeah," she said. "I'm coming." But as she climbed in, she couldn't shake Astrid's words. "If you hear a voice that knows your name, don't answer it." Kathrin closed the car door slowly. Last night, something had used Mikkel's voice. Tonight, she feared it might use her mother's. The drive back up the mountain felt longer than the drive down. The road twisted like a pale ribbon between the dark pines, and the higher they climbed, the heavier the silence grew inside the car. It pressed on Kathrin's chest, filling the spaces between her thoughts. Her father hummed quietly along with the radio, trying to seem relaxed, but his grip on the steering wheel was a little too tight. When they reached the house, it stood as still as frost. No smoke rose from the chimney. No footprints marred the snow except their own from earlier that morning. The air felt colder here, colder than in the village. Colder than it should have been. Colder than anywhere else they'd been today. Kathrin hesitated for a moment before stepping out of the car. The house watched her. Not literally, but she felt it. Like the shape of it. Its angles, its weight, its history, leaned slightly toward her, listening. Her father locked the car and brushed snow from his jacket. "We'll unload everything later," he said. "Let's get inside and warm up first." Kathrin nodded. When she followed him to the door, a chill ran up her spine. The doorknob was icy, far colder than the surrounding air. Her father didn't seem to notice. As they stepped inside, warmth slid around them from the fireplace embers left smoldering from the night before. Her father headed straight to the kitchen to make coffee. Kathrin didn't follow. Something upstairs pulled at her, quietly, steadily, like a thread tugging at her ribs. She slipped off her boots and coat, then climbed the stairs. Her steps were soundless on the wood, as if the house absorbed the noise before it could exist. On the landing, the air shifted. A faint draft brushed past her cheek, though no windows were open. It wasn't cold exactly, more like a breath, a hum of awareness. The attic door stood closed, just as she'd left it. But something felt different. The air in front of it carried a strange density, as if holding its breath, or waiting. Kathrin approached slowly. Every step closer made her pulse quicken, not from fear, but something sharper, something like anticipation, the same feeling she'd gotten when she first touched the key. She reached the door. The wood was cool beneath her fingertips. A faint, nearly invisible rune was carved above the handle, worn down by time, almost erased but still present in the grain. She hadn't seen it before. She lifted the key from her pocket. It pulsed. A soft, warm throb traveled through the metal, synchronizing with her heartbeat. The warmth spread through her fingers, anchoring her. The key seemed almost alive. She raised it to the lock. The metal slid in with a sound that was too smooth, like a sigh of recognition. The lock clicked open. The house exhaled. Kathrin froze. No, not the house. The space behind the door, as if something sealed away for years was suddenly allowed to breathe again. She pushed the door open. It groaned softly, the sound drifting through the stillness like an old memory stirring. A thin streak of cold air slid across her skin. The attic stairway stretched upward, steep, narrow wooden steps disappearing into darkness. She flicked the light switch. Nothing happened. Of course it wouldn't be that easy. Kathrin took a deep breath and stepped inside. Upstairs, the air grew colder as she climbed, colder and heavier. The boards beneath her feet creaked quietly, in a rhythm almost too deliberate to be random. She reached the attic landing. A soft glow filtered from somewhere deeper inside, a faint, warm shimmer like candlelight hidden behind walls. It didn't flicker like a normal flame. It pulsed gently like the key. Kathrin stepped forward. The attic was larger than she expected, stretching along the length of the house. Dust hung in the air like frost, catching the faint amber shimmer. Old trunks lined the walls. Shelves sagged under the weight of forgotten boxes. A few pieces of furniture, covered in sheets, stood like silent ghosts. But the glow didn't come from any of that. It came from a door. A smaller door at the far end of the attic, half hidden behind a stack of old suitcases. The wood around its edges shimmered faintly, almost like frost catching early sunlight. Kathrin's breath caught. She approached slowly. The closer she came, the warmer the light grew. Her heartbeat synchronized with the pulse of it, steady, rhythmic, welcoming. But not in a comforting way, more like something calling her back. Her hand hovered above the small brass handle. A whisper drifted behind her. "Kathrin." She spun. Nothing, only darkness and the faint outline of the attic's old furniture. Her heart thundered. But she knew, instinctively, the whisper hadn't come from the room. Or the walls. It had come from beyond the small door. Soft, female, like a voice worn thin by time. She turned back. The door pulsed once, softly, gently, like a heartbeat. Kathrin's fingers closed around the brass handle. The metal warmed instantly, responding to her touch. She took a breath and opened it. The hidden room. The door swung inward with a low sigh. Inside was a small room, no bigger than a walk-in closet. Dust coated the shelves, but the air didn't feel stale. It felt preserved, as if the space had been sealed in time. In the center sat a wooden chair. Beside it, a narrow table. And on the table, a book. Not a modern book. Thick, bound in worn leather. Edges gilded once, now faded. Kathrin stepped inside. As her foot crossed the threshold, the warm glow in the room brightened slightly. Not from candles, from the book. She approached slowly. The leather cover bore no title, only an embossed symbol, 2 crescents overlapping, forming a circle broken at the top. Her mother's necklace had carried that same symbol. Kathrin's breath trembled. She reached out. The moment her fingertips brushed the leather, the glow flared, then vanished. The attic fell into stillness. The book lay cold beneath her hand. But something inside the house shifted, deep, relieved, like something exhaled in her place. Kathrin swallowed and pulled the book closer. Dust curled off the cover. A faint scent of pine and something floral, something almost familiar, rose from the leather. She opened it. The first page held a single line, written in elegant, looping handwriting she recognized instantly. Her mother's handwriting. "For the daughter who will return when I no longer can." Kathrin's breath caught in her throat. Her vision blurred for a moment. She turned the page. More writing, paragraphs, drawings, names, dates, symbols, notes in margins, maps of the mountain, sketches of the house. Formulas. Warnings. Her mother had left her a journal. No, this wasn't just a journal. This was a record of something bigger. Something her mother feared. Something she had tried to understand. Something she might not have escaped. Kathrin turned another page and froze. On the next sheet was a sketch of the attic staircase. Her attic staircase, with a shadow drawn standing at the top. Tall, human-shaped, facing outward. A single note beneath it read, "It will watch her before it follows." Kathrin's breath stopped. Behind her, at the top of the attic stairs, a board creaked. Once, slow, heavy, not like the house shifting, not like wind, like a footstep. Right behind her. She turned, slowly, and something stood in the doorway. Tall, still, waiting, the same shape her mother had drawn. The same shape she had feared. The same shape that wasn't human. Kathrin stumbled backward, hitting the table with her hip. The book slid from her hands and fell open on the floor. The figure didn't move. Didn't approach. Didn't breathe. The attic lights flickered, on, then off, then on again. Kathrin's heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear anything else. But then, the figure tilted its head, just slightly, as if studying her, as if recognizing her, as if remembering. Kathrin backed toward the small door, breath sharp and uneven. The figure took a single step forward. Soft, deliberate. Kathrin's hand found the doorknob behind her. And the figure whispered, not with a voice, but with the faint, rasping echo of breath moving through a hollow space. Kathrin, she yanked the door shut. The attic went dark. The attic door thudded shut behind her, sealing the darkness on the other side. Kathrin stumbled down the narrow staircase, her breath jagged and uneven. The dim hallway light below swayed slightly, as if touched by a draft, but no air moved. Her hands shook violently. When she reached the bottom, she pressed her back against the wall and forced herself to breathe. In, out, in, out. Her heartbeat refused to slow. Something had stood there. Not imagined. Not a trick of light. Not a shadow. Something real. She swallowed hard, tasting copper at the back of her throat. A floorboard creaked behind her. She snapped her head up. But it was only her father, poking his head out of the kitchen, a dish towel over his shoulder. "You okay?" he asked, frowning. "You look pale." Kathrin nodded too quickly. "Just dizzy." He stepped closer. "Are you sure? You're shaking." "I'm fine," she insisted, steadying her voice. "I think I just walked up too fast." He hesitated, clearly unsure, but finally nodded. "All right, sit down. I'll make you a tea." Kathrin nodded and followed him into the kitchen. Her father returned to the stove, humming softly as he prepared water. The normalcy of the room seemed unreal. Warm light, wooden cabinets, the scent of cinnamon milk still lingering faintly from earlier. She sat at the table, folding her hands tightly in her lap, trying to ground herself. That's when she noticed something. A thin line of dust traced across the kitchen floor in a perfect arc. Not from her shoes. Not from her father's. It curved around the table, smooth, deliberate, ending right beside her chair. Like something had been standing there, watching her. Kathrin forced her gaze forward. She wouldn't tell her father. Not yet. He had enough to worry about. And if she tried to explain, he wouldn't believe her. He'd think grief or exhaustion was making her see things. Maybe he'd be right. Except she had seen it, felt it, heard it. "Kathrin," she shuddered. The kettle whistled, and her father handed her a mug. His hand brushed hers, warm, steady, grounding. "We'll make this place feel like home," he said softly. "I promise." Kathrin nodded, but her gaze drifted toward the ceiling. The attic door was directly above the kitchen. She could feel it. Not physically, something deeper. A pressure, a presence, as if the house itself was aware she had seen too much. The journal. When her father left to check the car for the grocery bags, Kathrin slipped back upstairs, not to the attic, but to her room. She shut the door quickly behind her. The journal lay on her bed where she had dropped it after fleeing the attic. The old leather cover looked darker in her dim room, almost absorbing the light instead of reflecting it. She sat on the edge of the bed and opened it again. The first page remained the same. "For the daughter who will return when I no longer can." Her mother had written this for her, knowing she would come here one day, knowing she would find this room, knowing something would be waiting. Kathrin turned the page. Her mother's handwriting filled the next leaf. Slanted and elegant, The ink faded with time, but still legible. There are things this house remembers. Things it does not forget. Things it chooses. Kathrin's throat tightened. She turned another page. This one was a sketch of the mountain. Shadow Mountain as seen from the house. Only her mother had drawn something at the peak. A small dark opening, like an entrance. Below it, in smaller writing, "The mountain is hollow where it should not be." Kathrin swallowed. Her mother had known everything she was beginning to fear. She flipped further ahead, seeking answers, but many pages were smudged, ripped, or stained as if water or tears had blurred the ink. She found one passage still readable. If she hears the voice before the first snowfall of midwinter, she must not go outside. The house will try to protect her, but it cannot decide for her. It never could decide for me. Kathrin's pulse stuttered. First snowfall of midwinter. Astrid had said something similar in the cafe. Something about not answering voices that knew her name. Kathrin closed the book slowly. Someone or something was trying to reach her. And the house was trying to stop it. Snowfall. By afternoon, the sky had darkened again. Thick clouds gathered behind the mountain, heavy with snow. Her father stood by the window downstairs as she entered. "Storm coming," he murmured. "We should bring in firewood." He slipped into his boots and stepped outside. Kathrin hesitated, then followed. She didn't want to be alone right now. The cold bit at her cheeks as she stepped into the snow. The forest loomed at the edge of the property, dark and unmoving. She helped gather the stacked logs near the shed. The work warmed her, steadied her heartbeat, eased her trembling fingers. When she turned back toward the house, she froze. A figure stood by the porch steps. Tall, dark coat, hat dusted with snow. For a heartbeat, her breath caught in fear. The attic shadow. But then the figure lifted a hand in a small wave. Mikkel. Her chest tightened, not with fear, but relief and something else she wasn't ready to name. He stepped closer, lowering his hood. His eyes were softer than they had been in the alley that morning, though still carrying that same searching intensity. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Kathrin blinked. How did you know I wasn't?" He hesitated. "You looked like something had followed you out of the village." Her breath hitched. He wasn't wrong. She brushed hair from her face. "I'm fine, just a little overwhelmed." Mikkel nodded but didn't look convinced. He glanced at the house behind her. "You should be careful here," he said, voice low. Kathrin stiffened. "Why does everyone keep saying that?" "Because it listens," he replied simply. A shiver ran through her. "Did you know my mother?" she asked. His jaw tightened. "Not well, but everyone knew of her." Kathrin waited. Mikkel looked up at the mountain, snow beginning to drift down around them. "Your mother didn't leave because she wanted to," he said. "She left because she had to." Kathrin's breath caught. Before she could ask more, her father called from inside the house. "Kathrin, I need your help with the wood." She glanced back. When she turned toward Mikkel again, he was gone. Not walked away? Gone. Only fresh snow where he had been standing. Kathrin stared at the empty space, heart pounding for a reason she didn't understand. Nightfall. That evening, the wind howled against the house, rattling the windows softly. Snow drifted thick and fast now, covering everything in a white, soundless shroud. Kathrin sat on her bed, journal open beside her. The lamp flickered once. Then again, the same way the attic lights had flickered. She glanced toward her window. Snow streaked down the glass. In the distance, far up the dark slope of the mountain, a faint glow pulsed once. Warm, amber, rhythmic, exactly like the glow around the attic's secret door. Her breath trembled. She leaned closer to the window. The glow pulsed again, and this time it looked like it was answering something. A knock echoed down the hallway. Not at the front door. Her bedroom door. She froze. "Kathrin?" Her father called softly from the other side. "Are you awake?" She exhaled shakily. "Yeah, come in." He cracked the door and peeked inside. "You all right?" "You've been quiet." "I'm fine," she lied. He nodded slowly, though doubt lingered in his eyes. "We'll settle in. It'll start feeling like home soon." She forced a smile. When he left, the hallway fell silent again. Kathrin closed the journal and placed it on her bedside table. As she reached to turn off the lamp, a whisper slid through the room. Soft, female, barely audible. "Kathrin." She froze. The sound didn't come from the hallway. Or the attic. It came from inside the room. She turned slowly, and there, on the floor beside her wardrobe, a thin line of dust shifted, as if something unseen had just stepped forward. The dust along the floor moved again, just a whisper of motion, so light it could have been imagined, but Kathrin knew it wasn't. It shifted like something had stepped closer. Then again, a third time, her breath hitched. She forced her hand toward the lamp and flicked it on. The warm light chased the shadows from the corners, revealing nothing, only her wardrobe, her rug, the quiet hum of the heater, but she felt it. A presence. Quiet. Patient. Close. She backed toward her bed, her fingers brushing the edge of the journal. She grabbed it instinctively, almost protectively. The moment her skin touched the leather, a low thrum rippled through the room. Not from the book. From the house. A deep resonant vibration as if ancient wood remembered her mother's hands. Kathrin swallowed and flipped the journal open, turning pages quickly. She didn't know what she was looking for, only that she needed to find it now. A page near the middle caught her eye. Creased. Worn, the ink darker than the others. Her mother must have returned to it many times. The voice comes to those who listen. It knows names. It wears memories like masks. Kathrin's chest tightened. She read further. If she hears the voice before midwinter, she must not go outside. It will try to bring her to the threshold. It must not succeed. The word threshold sent a shiver down her spine. A sudden knock jolted through the house. Kathrin jumped. It wasn't her door. It was the front door. Her blood ran cold. The knock came again. Measured. Soft. Insistent, just like the voice had been the night before. "Kathrin?" Her father called from the hallway, startled. "Did we invite someone?" "No," she answered quickly. "Don't open it!" Her father paused. "What? Why not?" "Please, just don't," she begged, her voice trembling. He hesitated. She could hear it in his breath. But he stepped away from the stairs and headed down the hallway. Another knock. Harder this time. Kathrin slammed the journal shut and rushed out of her room, nearly slipping on the wooden floor. She reached the top of the stairs just as her father's hand closed around the doorknob. "Dad, stop!" The doorknob twisted under his grip. Not by him. Her father froze. A long crack formed across the frosted window of the door as something pressed against it from the outside, something unseen, something cold enough to frost the glass in spiraling patterns. "Kathrin," a voice whispered through the door. Her father jerked his hand back. "What the hell?" But Kathrin didn't hear him. The voice wasn't Mikkel's this time. It was a woman's. Soft, familiar, her mother. Her heart clenched painfully. Tears burned her eyes. "Kathrin, open the door." Her father's face paled. "Is that—" "No," Kathrin whispered. "It's not her." The house answered her. The lights flickered violently, a warning. The floorboards vibrated under her feet. A sound like an exhale swept down the hallway, a cold wind that came from nowhere. The frost on the window cracked again. Another whisper slid through the glass. "Let me in, sweetheart." Kathrin's throat closed. Her knees nearly buckled. Her mother had called her sweetheart. But this wasn't her. Her mother would never— The door handle jerked violently. Twisted, pulled, as if something on the other side was trying to tear it open. Her father backed away, raising his hands defensively. "Kathrin, get behind me!" But Kathrin didn't move. Something inside her, deep, instinctive, knew the house was fighting to keep her safe. The air around her vibrated, the hallway light flaring a bright, unnatural white. The journal warmed in her hands. She opened it with shaking fingers, searching, flipping pages until a line practically leapt at her. The house cannot hold it off forever. She must speak the name. "What name?" Kathrin breathed. "What name?" The door shook violently. A crack split across the frame. "Kathrin, please." The voice was perfect. Perfectly wrong. Her father grabbed the heavy wooden chair by the wall and jammed it under the doorknob. "Call the police," he said through clenched teeth. "There's someone out there." "No," Kathrin whispered. "There isn't." The house groaned, loud, deep, like the mountain itself answering. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed the hallway. Her father cursed softly. "Stay behind me." Kathrin stepped forward instead. The journal throbbed in her hands, the same gentle pulse as the key. A warmth spread up her arms into her chest, steadying her breath. She didn't understand why, but she felt it. Whatever was outside wasn't stronger than the house. Not tonight. Not while she held the journal. The doorknob twisted again, violently. Kathrin lifted the book in both hands. "Stop!" she shouted. Everything froze. The door stilled. The voice went silent. Even the storm outside seemed to hold its breath. Kathrin swallowed. "I'm not opening the door," she whispered. Her words trembled, but they were clear. "You're not my mother." The frost on the glass recoiled, shrinking back as if burned. The spirals melted away. A hiss, low and inhuman, slid through the wood. Then, silence. The presence evaporated. The house exhaled. The lights flickered back on. Her father sagged against the wall, panting. What just happened?" Kathrin didn't answer, because she saw something he hadn't. Outside the window, far down the path near the edge of the forest, a figure stood. Snow swirling around him, hands in his coat pockets, head tilted slightly upward toward the house. Miguel. Watching, not approaching. Just watching, as if he'd seen everything, as if he'd expected it. Their eyes met through the frost-kissed glass. For a moment neither moved. Then he lifted his hand, a small gesture, almost a warning, and disappeared into the trees. Kathrin pressed her trembling fingers to the window. The storm roared back to life, and deep inside the house, beneath the floorboards, something shifted. Something large, something old, something awakening.